Okay, quick question. What is an agreement in principle? Do I really need one? And are they worth the paper they're written on? / printed out.
Yes, we always do. Look, agreements in principle are not to be confused with a mortgage offer. So an agreement in principle is a really good first step to make sure that a lender is going to lend you the amount of money that you need. So that's really important, because when you go into an estate agent, in fact, when you go and buy anything, the first thing someone will ask you is, well, how would you like to pay for it?
Yeah.
And if you go into an estate agent and start viewing properties without any idea of whether you can afford to buy those properties or not, you're not just wasting the estate agent's time, but what will happen is you'll fall in love with the property and you'll find out that you can't afford it. So actually what it is, first of all, is when you speak to a good mortgage broker, they'll be able to get the information from you, advise you and look at the market, look at which lenders are out there in the market, and find out from each lender how much you'll actually be able to afford. And then they'll do something called a soft credit search. So basically they'll input your details onto one of the lender's systems, and the lender will do a soft credit check, so check that there's nothing in the background that's an issue. And they'll also assess your potential affordability and come back with a, yes, Stuart, you can borrow up to £400,000. And then adding on your deposit, exactly how much you can get. So you can get them quite easily. So in some instances, you might be able to just key your details online, or a broker can, without checking actually your income is what you say it is. And therefore, some people do have an agreement in principle that isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Agreed.
Because it hasn't been through the whole mandatory checks, and a broker hasn't checked all your information. So you do have to be careful. What I'd always say is, if you want an agreement in principle that means something, actually speak to a broker, get it done properly, and then you can wave that in front of an estate agent. An estate agent knows you're a serious buyer,
Yeah.
and B, that you can actually afford the property you want to buy.
That's the real value of them, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because essentially, an agreement in principle is only as good as the details that you put in. So if you're getting a broker that's done it, that's professionally looked at your documents, then that's going to be accurate. The other thing that I think is really valuable with an agreement in principle is it shows everyone that you've got your stuff together. It shows you're serious. You've spent time either with a broker, or you spent time doing your agreement in principle. And it also means that, by the time you come to offer on a property, you could be like, hey, I've got my deposit, I've got an agreement in principle, I've got solicitors, I'm engaged with the broker. I'm in a good position to be proceedable, which just gives you the competitive edge, especially in a buyer's market.
Yeah. One last question on that. A lot of people ask, how long does an agreement in principle last? Well, normally they last between 30 and 90 days.
Yeah.
But don't worry if it does expire, because we'll be able to get a new one for you.
Exactly.